how are you?
I'm doing really well, thanks. How are you?
Okay, yeah, I'm fine too.
Great.
Despite the immense contribution of agriculture in overall Bangladesh economy, it has largely remained subsistence-based with uncertain crop yields and insufficient infrastructure. Do you think these drawbacks limiting the ability of our farmers?
I first want to mention, and I guess you know this, and I think your readers know this as well, but Bangladesh in the past 50 years has come so far. And I think there's been so much advancement in agricultural productivity to what we have today. So I just wanted to mention that. And then I also wanted to mention that the United States has issues with all of these as well. And we're a very developed economy, and we are one of the largest agricultural exporters in the world. So I think, yes, there's a lot that can be done. And I think agriculture is a very tricky business because it's completely reliant on the weather and the climate. So even in the United States, we're seeing, because of the effects of climate change, drought, flooding. Sometimes we have great crops, sometimes we have terrible crops. So I think the question is, how do we mitigate against these issues? And again, it's difficult, and I think it is affecting the productivity of the farmers. And I think that technology is really the way we can get out of this. I'll just keep, I have a lot to say on this topic, but really, I've had the opportunity to visit some of the universities as well as the research institutions that the government, the Ministry of Agriculture runs, and I've been really impressed with all the research that's going on. So I think it's important to just keep supporting all of that research moving forward.
Many people have least confidence on agricultural data from government sources. Do you have, what is your observation on the quality of agricultural statistics of Bangladesh?
I've been able to visit a lot of upazilas and districts around Bangladesh for my work. And one thing I'm always struck by is how hardworking all of the extension officers are in the field, so the DAE officers. And I know they're tasked with collecting a lot of this data. But what we've noticed is that many different agencies in Bangladesh and the government of Bangladesh are collecting data, and sometimes it's inconsistent. And I think what underpins your question is how important having correct data is.
Yes.
And that's something at the US Department of Agriculture that we really focus on. Because if we don't have correct data, farmers can't get proper prices for their goods. Governments can't ensure food security if they don't know what's being produced, what's being imported, exported. So it's incredibly important. And I think in the United States, we have a very robust system, but we're lucky because we've been doing it for a very long time. We have a lot of money. So I would suggest just one recommendation, or one thing that I've noticed, is just more coordination among the interagency on data collection. And then in addition, I also wanted to note that some of the work my office does here, and it's actually the main reason we're here in Bangladesh, is because we write reports. We call them gain reports. And they're reports on the production, supply, and distribution of different commodities. So for example, soybeans, a lot of different commodities. And again, the reason is because the USDA does this in every country we work in. And the United States also publicly publishes all this data because we believe that a very transparent system is better for everyone worldwide. So I just urge you, I know you guys read our reports, but I urge others to read them as well.
So USDA has been a partner with Bangladesh in development activities to improve agricultural capacity since independence. Please describe your challenges and success in Bangladesh.
Sure. So we currently have a $50 million portfolio of projects at USDA, and that's not 50 million in 1 year. That's across usually the life of projects, which is usually about 5 years. So just note maybe some of the projects we're working on now and how we believe that contributes. One of our largest projects is called the Bangladesh Trade Facilitation Project. And I'm really proud of this one because it's in direct support of a government of Bangladesh ask. So the government signed on to the WTO, World Trade Organization, Trade Facilitation Agreement, and they asked for support to meet that, especially because Bangladesh is graduating from LDC status. Reducing time things spent at port of entry, making sure regulations make sense to encourage import and export of products. I work for a trade agency. The Foreign Agricultural Service of USDA is a trade agency, so that's what we're very much focused on, is how we can make trade better and cheaper and more efficient for everyone. Because it's good for us because we can import, and it's good for
all of us.
Exactly. And then another project we're doing now that I'm also really proud of, and I think this is maybe my favorite project. It's called the McGovern-Dole Food for Education program, and it's a little bit different from what we normally do at USDA. It's a school feeding project. So over the course of this program, we've donated over $120 million to Bangladeshi school children to help feed them in school. And the impetus for this program was we have school feeding in the United States. And actually, most of the money that USDA spends is on what we call SNAP, which is supplemental food for maybe people who are in poverty or need help. And part of that also goes to feeding school children. So even in the United States, we have issues that we're addressing through these programs. So it's really great that we can also help Bangladesh. And it's not just giving the food to the children, but it's helping build the capacity of the government to create a functioning program here in Bangladesh to ensure that kids can go to school, their brains are developing correctly, and they can concentrate because they're the next generation who are going to solve all the problems that we've made.
Well, climate change crisis makes farmers and agriculture more vulnerable in southern Bangladesh.
Yes.
What should be the adopting policy?
Yeah, and I think climate change, as everyone knows, I think it's the issue of our generation, and that it's going to be the issue of our children's generation, and we need to deal with it now. And I think southern Bangladesh, or Bangladesh as a whole, is really at the forefront of the climate crisis, and southern Bangladesh because of the salinity intrusion. But also if you look at North Bengal, they're having issues as well. Pakistan's having issues, as we've seen with the flooding. The United States is having issues. We had a drought in California followed by massive floods. Like, everything is in flux right now. And as I mentioned earlier, from my perspective, I think the key is technology. So again, I've been really impressed with the research that Bangladeshi researchers and academics are doing, and the government as well, to have modern technology to adapt to this. And that's biotechnology, that's improved crop varieties. And I think it's just spurring investment in this. So one thing we've been partnering with the government of Bangladesh, the Ministry of Agriculture specifically, is on the Agricultural Innovation Mission for Climate. So, and that's just spur investment worldwide for improved agricultural technologies. And Bangladesh committed $10 million to this program, and it's run by the United States and the UAE. And I really think that's the answer, because I don't know what else we can do besides mitigation. So there's really the adaptation front, which I think relies on technology, and then the mitigation front, which obviously reduce methane emissions, which is what we're working on worldwide.
Today's agriculture routinely use sophisticated technologies like robots, moisture sensors, GPS, etc. Bangladesh need technologies for resilient food production. How USA could help in this technology and innovation area?
Glad we're spending a lot of time on technology. And one thing I also wanted to note, that I think in the United States, many people who don't live on farms, I'm actually from New York City, so this was maybe a little bit surprising to me when I learned more about the rural economy. It's all based on technology. You can put satellite coordinates in, and then the tractor just goes. Right? So it's a highly technical field, which I think people don't realize. And I also think if you transported a Bangladeshi farmer to the United States, they would be blown away. We're really lucky in that we have a lot of land. So these farms are thousands of acres. And in Bangladesh, unfortunately, because of the land, you have
land part, little part.
Exactly. And then we also see, because maybe one family owns this plot and one family owns that plot. So I applaud the government, because they're really working on mechanization so they can work across all plots. Very difficult. And it's really difficult in the Bangladesh environment, especially. So I think, again, we're always open to partnering. We have a lot of really great technology that comes out of the United States. So we always are looking for investment or selling that technology to Bangladeshi companies. I don't want to speak for my colleagues at USAID, but they're doing incredible work on agricultural technology. At USDA, we're very much focused again on the scientific research side and how we can harness that. And we have some great programs that we're working on.
Bangladesh import a lot of cotton from US, and these cottons, out of these cottons, cloths are being made based on the cotton-based yarn and fabric. And if these garments goes to US market, stakeholders have been demanding duty-free access. Do you see any possibility of consensus on this matter between our two countries?
Sure. And I think the cotton trade is just a really great example of how integrated our economies are, like you said, because it's good for the United States because we produce the cotton and then it creates jobs here in the RMG industry and then it's sent back to the United States and then our consumers can buy high quality clothes. Really interesting. And of course, we want to make sure everything flows correctly. However, regarding trade preferences, those are authorized by the US Congress and none of them are currently authorized. So I can talk about GSP in particular, which is one of those programs. And the GSP program, Bangladesh actually lost access to that. So if it were to be reauthorized, in the past it actually did not include garments. But if it were to be reauthorized and Bangladesh would still have to meet some benchmarks regarding labor and other issues to qualify for it.
What is the potential of Bangladesh agricultural food products in US market in the context of our export diversification?
And I think export diversification is extremely important. And we actually are just doing a report on this that should be out soon. So we'll make sure you get a copy of it. But the reason we're so interested in Bangladeshi processing and exports is because a lot of the raw materials come from the United States. So again, it's good for us because we sell it to you, and then it's good for you because you process it, make jobs, and then make more money selling it to other people. So in terms of the United States market, it's very difficult to access because we have very stringent food safety laws. And then in terms of other products, we actually have subtropical regions, so it makes it very difficult to import certain fruits to the United States just because they have to pass certain regulations. So what we always suggest to companies is to look to the region. So Bangladesh is already exporting different products, processed products to the Gulf, especially halal products and other countries in South and Southeast Asia. So we really are focusing on that. And we are helping through some of our development programs, capacity development programs, to improve that flow of goods to other countries in the region. And then I think this goes back to the trade facilitation issue, because if you want to export, things need to get out quickly. You need to have cold chain for a lot of these products, right? So they can be processed and exported quickly. So that's kind of why it all goes back to what we do at FAS is really focused on trade. But I am from Queens, New York, which has a very large Bangladeshi population. So I grew up with Bangladeshi friends and actually eating a lot of different Bangladeshi foods. So I would love to see more Bangladeshi products in the United States. That would be great. We just have to make sure, again, that they're safe and healthy products.
Well, what are the long-term strategies that should formulate and implement to ensure overall food security of Bangladesh?
And again, I think I keep talking about this, but agricultural trade is key. So the United States, we're actually a net exporter of agricultural products, but we still import a great variety and a lot of products as well. So I think the issue of self-sufficiency is maybe overblown. And I think Bangladesh should be focusing again on trade, because Bangladesh can't physically produce all of the food it needs to feed its people. And that's geography, right? So I think the focus should be on how can we access food that other countries grow and do so in a manner that's trade facilitative, so it's cheaper for Bangladesh and it's also safe food. That's why we want to make sure there's ample cold chain. We also want to make sure, for example, Bangladesh imports corn from other countries. We want to make sure aflatoxin is not an issue, because that's really all of these issues. So we need to have safe, nutritious food coming in. I think that's a big part of it. And I think the other part, as we talked about earlier, is technology and making sure that we adapt to the changing climate, because it's only going to get worse, right? So we need to make sure that we're adopting those technologies to ensure food security. And then also distribution, which is infrastructure based. So to make sure, is there cold chain available for farmers to have put their potatoes in? There's always, I would say Bangladeshi mangoes are the best mangoes I've ever had, and I've lived in a lot of countries that produce mangoes. And I'm missing mango season this year, and I'm very upset about it. But there's always a glut of mangoes. So how much are Bangladeshi farmers really selling those for? Like less than 50 taka, right? So to ensure food security, it's not just about producing the food, it's about farmer incomes. It's about incomes for people in the city. Do they have proper social safety nets? And these are the kinds of things we love to talk about with our government counterparts because, again, I think in the United States, we definitely do not have all of this figured out, as you probably have seen in the news, and we're always striving to do better. And I think that's why we like to work with the government, because we can maybe say like this worked or this didn't work, and maybe this can apply to Bangladesh as well. So I think that's really infrastructure, trade facilitation, trade, technology.
Thank you so much. It was nice talking to you.
It was really great to talk to you too. Thank you.